Sujan, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped to talk to you.
So, Mailshake. Tell me about Mailshake.
Yeah, so Mailshake's a sales engagement platform software for sales, marketing, recruiters, customer success, pretty much anybody who's wants to close deals. And closing deals, sometimes that's hiring somebody, right? Getting a link
Uh-huh.
for if you're a marketer, what have you. Um, we are in probably the second most crowded space
How many
that I know.
competitors? More or less.
On G2, I think there's like 85, 86
Oh shit.
competitors. Yeah. When we started, I think there was like less than 20. And let's be real, we weren't the first one. We were pretty much number 15, 16. We started around same time as a lot of the folks that are fairly large now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Saw
Who are the
space.
top two in the category?
I think outreach and sales law are the by far the largest.
Mhm.
And this is a new category. This is like sales engagement is a category that's existed. I think outreach has paved the way in terms of like creating the category. And it's like those sales engagement are like made up words to describe what people do. A single software that people use to make phone calls, all communication and email follow-ups. It's like what the CRM should be,
Uh-huh.
but it's people still are tied to using Salesforce or whatever other CRM. So this is a layer on top of a CRM, like a salesperson or marketer kind of hangs out in. Um, so yeah, I mean, they're sending emails or making phone calls.
Mhm.
There's a lot of overlap between what a CRM does, um, but it doesn't necessarily replace a CRM, right?
Sure. Yeah. So you have, as you said, a bucket load of competitors. So in a high level, how do you compete? How do you intend to increase your share of the pie?
Yeah. So look, I think the simplest thing I could say of how we are different or how we compete is our usability. And when people told us that we're easier to use, uh, while we're getting product market fit, and even though we're in a category that's fairly defined, product every company still needs to get product market fit. Maybe it's the messaging, whatever. People kept saying it's easy to use. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's easy to dismiss easy to use until you use something hard and you're like,
Mm.
I can't figure out how to do this, right? And you start spending time trying to like, fix something, make it work, or like get something simple out the door. And so, anyways, our simple value prop is that we're easy to use. And there's like, and that how it relates to kind of behind the scenes is we actually don't have we're not the most feature rich, which I probably like the least feature rich. And I kind of pull a little bit of the Steve Jobs. I mean, I'm nowhere near like the visionary or that type
Sure.
of personality, but we make decisions on behalf of customers saying, no, that's a stupid idea. We're not going to put that in our product because it might be a great tactic, but it will not last forever, right?
Mm.
Or this is going to get people killed. Their
Mhm.
inbox, their emails banned, or stuff like that. Or yes, this is an awesome, powerful feature, but people already do it here. Let's just not make it more complicated. Let's just
Totally, I
remove
hear
this.
you. It's kind of like how the Basecamp guys are like, there's more feature-rich project management softwares out there, but they kind of know their place and they have a
Yep,
guiding philosophy of like how they think about it.
exactly. And I think that guiding philosophy is there. The features and what the decisions we make kind of change, right? As as things become more mature. The great thing for us is that we're not the market leader, and so we've got outreach and sales loft, and there's another company, Zan. There's a bunch of competitors
Hmm.
that have spent a whole lot of money, hundreds of tens of millions of dollars a year building a bunch of stuff people does that they don't use. And so we being the lagger in terms of to market, we get
Hmm.
the benefit of not wasting our time on stuff that won't work or people won't use,
Hmm.
right? So there is that is probably the only advantage of being late to the game.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
Outside
yeah.
of being funded and like just to be clear, 86 players in the space, I don't care to be number one. Like, I know we're the
I
best to
see.
use
Yeah.
for SMB and maybe mid market. Like, if you have a sales team past like 20 or 30 people, you got to use someone else. It's just like we're not built for that. Like, we don't have features to make our users managers happy.
Oh, I
But
see. So it's basically you have kind of an idea of when they grow out of you and they're ready to move on to a different tool.
exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
That's interesting.
And
So it's kind of like you could even create a community around organizations of a certain size. It's like we help you get from A to B to the next
yep.
level. Yeah,
The hard part about that is it's a little bit that those two A to B or A to Z really or whatever,
yeah,
they're like very different depending on the company, right? So I'll put it this way: we just onboarded a customer that's like paying us like $800 a month. They
nice.
are a multi-billion-dollar industry, as a company. Um, their sales reps don't do follow-up emails. They do it all manually, and I'm like, what? How big is your sales team? And the sales team that we're working on the product, the company division that bought us is maybe 25 people. But globally, there's not really a software that anybody uses to do follow-up email. So meaning like every person that and follow-up email and automation has a bad rep. Let me
Sure.
put it to like sometimes, it's annoying to get those spammy emails like, hey, you're following up, or did you get hit by a zebra? But a lot of times it's like you do a demo and after that you send an email. It says, hey, here's a recap. And sometimes people don't respond. A lot of times they don't respond.
Hmm.
So you do a follow after that, right? Or in those types of scenarios, this large company doesn't have any follow up. They just do it all manually.
Hmm.
But anyways, my point is their Z is billions or their B is billions. Some other company with 5 sales reps might be 5 million. So
Yeah.
a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, I think your point is very valid in this community of folks in the trenches, trying to grow.
So let's talk about that ease of use, simplicity, essentialism advantage here. So when I look at your site, that's you don't lead with that messaging. So when would somebody get to know? Is that you that's your demo sales deck focus, or are you doing like product led growth and then they'll just find out on their own, or
Yeah, pretty
how are
much.
you thinking about it?
It's more product led growth and our reputation. And we actually, we're always testing messaging out.
Yeah.
Um, and we've had the simple and like usability messaging for quite some time, it actually doesn't resonate the best with people when they
Hmm.
read it. When
Yeah.
they live it, it does. Right?
Totally.
Think
It's not
about
very exciting because we've all seen like this better. It's
yeah,
not very
because
exciting to hear.
everybody promises that. I think it's a
Right.
lot. I think it's a lie slash a truth that you have to experience to see it, right? And I think everyone. I think so. So yeah, I think the other part of this is outcome focus. I always try to be outcome focused, and simplicity, ease of use is not an outcome. That's a little bit more of an emotion,
Mm.
something that triggers an emotion and happiness of a user. Although you can get the job done with any of the 86 tools out there.
Yeah, I've felt like in Wynter where we do offer B2B panels, we actually can give customers it's free basically if you bring your own panel. And what happens there is when they try to recruit their own panel, they see how painful it is. They feel the pain and then they are much happier to pay for the panel that we sell them.
Yeah.
So is it also that your prime customer basically has used the more complicated option, they felt the pain, and now
Hmm.
they can appreciate the simplicity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I guess that, yeah, folks that come to us usually have used a tool in the past or feel the pain of no tool or nothing, right?
Mm,
All chaos, 5 tools out there, right? And so they come in and the being we're product led I'd like to say we're product led, although we don't follow all the rules of a product led company. Like we don't have a free trial, we don't have a freemium product. It's paid up front. We actually tested that, and paid works way better, um, because people actually, when you spend a small amount of money, you actually do the work required to
Skin
get
in the
set up.
game, yeah.
Yeah, you just do the work, right? And so yeah, the we measure kind of effectiveness by ease of like a quick the time to deploy. So we're a few weeks, within one day or five, like one session or a few weeks is the longest. Um, and that's kind of the how the usability ease of use translates out. If you're small, like if you are a single salesperson or like a 3-person sales team, you can add 3 emails, set a campaign up. The hard part is writing, obviously, the copy and all that stuff. So the difficulties are kind of things that are not in our software. Of course, that's where our marketing and kind of community and like the education part comes in. um, where we're kind of helping people. Hey, let me help you write some copy. Like, let me just tell you what not to do, and here's some tips on what to do. So a lot of our like onboarding emails and like our content and stuff that nurtures people down the road. Like, it's actually not about our product. It's all about do how to do things the right way and what are the
Mhm.
wrong ways.
So
Um,
isn't there like a million pieces of content on how to write a cold email and how to get better open rates? So
yeah,
how is your content then better, or don't they just find the other content, or what's
yeah.
your
So part of it, we're really good at content marketing, right? So
Mhm.
that's my background in SEO content. So like we just are in the right places. So yes, I think discovery, top of the funnel, or even like a touch point before they sign up. Like people are always like, "Hey, we read your content for a while. Like we're not customers, but like now we finally are," right? So I think we get them at the right stages way earlier than they buy. So
Mhm.
that's our marketing, I'd say, our advantage. But I also think the the when they become a customer, I'd like to say, and then maybe, I don't have a hard proof for this, but what we measure here is not just like, hey, do people read more content? It's, do people actually implement the things we tell them to implement, right? And
Mhm.
part of that means dumbing it down. Part of that means saying it in 3,000 different ways, in different approach, like our blog, a webinar, a one-on-one call, um, weekly, like our live office hours, they're all saying the same thing in different ways, right? Somebody might just say, "Oh, I read this blog. I know the IDEF format. I'm going to just use that." Somebody might actually need to tell someone else, might need, "Stop sending this long email. Let me help you."
So basically, you're doing a lot of work to get them adopted and then to get success out of your
Exactly.
tool. Mhm.
Exactly. And so we're looking at this as like, how can we stop? And even in the product, when you're writing an email, if you start writing a sentence that says like, "Hey, my name is blah blah blah," we'll stop you and give you a little warning. Like, "Hey, look, generally things that start with talking about yourself don't do well. How about you start with the value prop?" And
Mhm.
we're obviously trying to get better, and like in the product at that time, tell you to go somewhere and learn,
Mhm.
right? Um, so our biggest churn, our biggest problem as a company is people aren't copywriters, and as
Yes.
they should not be, right? They they need help, and so that's kind of our where we spend a lot of our um, nurture sequence and marketing and retention efforts on, is making people better copywriters.
Mhm. One more question about that usability factor. So, 86 tools. Everybody's doing competitive benchmarking and checking out the competition. So probably they can out usability like
Yeah,
create an even better or at least as good. So meaning that usability, ease of use becomes a table stakes. Then where does that leave you? Are you thinking about that? Are you building up some sort of a moat or?
yeah, you think so, right? You think that I don't think that's actually possible. Somebody can out usability. So a company, if someone's strength as a product is usability, it's hard for competition to say we're easier to use too. Like look at Samsung versus iPhone. Like iPhone has not the most features, but like it just kind of works, right? So I'm biased towards iPhone here, right? So,
Well, yeah,
but like,
well, Android market share is 90%. Samsung has 35% of the US market share as in terms of volume, and Apple. So it's kind of like actually pretty even. I mean, in terms of fan base,
right,
yeah.
right, right. So from a user, yeah, right. So from a like a impact perspective, they're spot on, right? But
Hmm.
Apple launches something, and then Samsung can launch something as well.
Yeah.
So, and then every other manufacturer can launch it. But there's a reason why, like Microsoft folded in the, like, so
Yeah, I
maybe
think
one
there's
company
something
can.
to when Apple first came out with the iPhone and all that stuff, and also their Macs. They were just the usability was significantly better,
Yeah,
and the hardware was better. And now it's increasingly not true. I mean,
yeah.
there's feature
But
parity, but the
right, right.
reputation is still there. You know,
Yeah,
it's,
so I think that, but also think about it this way, right? Like, so you're our competitor, and I think at a large scale, at some point, it becomes it could become nullified, right? Um, but by that time, you've grown and gained a lot more market share. But I think
mhm.
about this, right? Our two biggest players in the space, they've got like 500 features of a bunch of stuff. If they try to make their stuff simple, they would be taking away what do they have to take away? I think subtraction in building software is incredibly hard,
Oh yeah,
right?
sunk cost. Yeah,
Like, no, I mean like subtracting features, right? So
like
you have them
actively removing your
re-
features.
actively removing things in the way of doing something, right?
Yeah.
So like, I look at the other way around. It's like I always tell when we're building software, when we're building product, like you have like if someone's doing something like, I need this to be done in 2 clicks. That's it. Like there's no figure it out. Like, and
Hmm.
we'll take 100 stabs at it, right? But when you have something that takes 7 clicks to do something, to try to do it in 2 clicks is hard. And then usually when you have 7 clicks to do something, it's across the whole platform. So it's like a little bit of a virus that's spread. So like to change all of it is really hard.
Right.
Um, and that being said, I think like if you go to talk to outreach, I bet their product people say we're easy to use as well, right?
Sure.
We're
Everybody does. Yeah.
who doesn't say that about themselves, right? I would say we fail at being easy to use all the time, but I'm not measuring our ability to say easy to use. I'm measuring what customers say about us, right?
Hmm.
Um, and and again, so like going back to the inception of Mailshake, we started with being easy to use, and I think anybody kind of pedaling backwards might get better at it, but I don't think they can beat us at the game at our or at that because
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
Let's talk about acquisition. So there are disgruntled customers out there who've used let's say complicated software.
mhm.
Are you somehow going targeting those precisely? Have you found a way to acquire customers cheaper than the competition? Is that how you can gain market share, or like how? What is your acquisition strategy?
So it's threefold. It's word of mouth. That's our
Hmm.
biggest channel by far. SEO and content is our second biggest channel. Um, and then it's kind of a little bit of everything in between. Um, so like because that usability, ease of use, um, we we just have a lot of fans of Mailshake. They buy it, they use it for their clients, they use it for themselves, their teams, whatever. They move jobs. Right, sales typically is and marketing typically higher churn. Retention is a problem for employers. Somewhere between 1.5, like 18 months to maybe 36 months. Folks leave, they bring it onto their new teams and stuff. And maybe that's not necessarily the only way folks kind of come on board, but yeah, a lot of customers come through from word of mouth, and that's something you can't really take away from
Hmm.
us. Like
Hard
we
to,
could
yeah.
step. I mean, very very difficult. We can take it away from ourselves by doing the wrong things, right? Um, Content SEO again, we just have a lot of traffic from day one. We started focusing on content and you just have a lot more traffic, organic traffic, built up the site, built up the blog, and
Do
we'll
you have
continue.
a in-house content team churning out the content, or are you outsource?
Both.
How
So
much
yeah,
content are you producing?
a month. What's the like 15 to 20 articles a month.
Hmm.
It's not a and some months we do like 5 or 6. It really depends on like what we're going after. But there's always something out there. Like every week is a minimum cadence, and then we've got like quarter where we're just saying, hey, we're gonna go talk about this
And your
category or
content
this thing.
is it mostly like SEO driven, or it's more like opinion pieces, or how do you think about that?
Um, I'd say 75% SEO driven, right? Long term, to be honest, we probably rank. We can just publish something and 3 months later it'll rank. Um,
Uh-huh.
just because we've been doing it for such a long time, we've got good domain authority, lots of links and what have you. 25% we're trying to create content that is a bit more data driven slash experience driven, meaning like this is what's like you could read about all the different templates in the world on a cold email, but here are
Yes.
actual real ones with data that actually work, right?
Mm.
um, so I'd say that's a newer area that we're focusing on.
Mm.
um,
So then
and
you
and I
go up against Gong, who's like their whole content marketing is like we have the data on this.
Yeah. Well, they have data on the phone stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think the we're going after from like email, and we're not so much on the phone side of communication. I mean, I just choose what battles I don't want to play. Like
Mm.
we can't win against Gong
Sure.
on that, right?
Totally.
And but we try to stay in the SMB world. So think about our customers are under 200-person companies typically. Um, what is helpful for that segment of customers?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
While having high volume for SEO, while having all the other stuff, right? What's
Hmm.
actually helpful for that? Because once you go into like mid market enterprise, and mid market's hard to even define because they blur into both sides. But enterprise, like we just don't talk about enterprise stuff. That's not what we do. I don't know enough. We don't know enough about it.
Totally. Tell me also about brand. So, brand can be a competitive advantage, reason to choose you. Also, your personal brand. You're a pretty visible guy on the internet. How much of your efforts are like intentional brand building?
Not enough. Not enough. Um, we I totally agree with you. I think brand is a huge amount of focus. As brand is something you earn over time, and I think we've earned that through building that usable, simple, to easy to use product, uh, and we get that through high word of mouth, and our content. I don't think I wouldn't say we have a. We're gonna. This is what we're doing to build our brand here, right? We've created these epic pieces of content over the years, updated them, kept them going, and they're shared, and that helps us get customers over time. And we continue to invest in like education, um, but I wouldn't say like we have a strong brand effort.
Hmm.
Um, Partly because as a bootstrap startup, we have to choose what we can spend money on and time on. And I'd rather just say, look, we're gonna build our brand through education and product. Like product being, we're gonna do the things people say that we do. We're just gonna keep doing them every day. And content, like we know people have a problem in their success, not even our customers, everyone's customers, just sending bad emails out. So let's just help solve that problem.
Hmm.
And
I love
if
that.
we're
Yeah.
if we're the tool to use, great. I'd love it. If not, that's fine too. I think if everyone just got better emails, we
So
problem solved,
priority.
right?
So
Yeah.
in terms of marketing, you prioritize content, and then also you prioritize product, which generates word of mouth, probably retention, and all those other metrics you care about. My final question is: how are you thinking about building up moats? Like in the book, The Seven Powers. I don't know if you've read it. It's
Yep.
like you have economies of scale, and then cornered resource, and brand, and this number of other things. So, are you actively thinking about moats and building them up?
I think about it every day, every night, like all the time. Yeah. We are working on it. Um, and I'd say we are trying to do it. We don't exactly. To be honest, I don't know exactly what our mode is. We're trying to figure it out. Um, I think it's going to come in from our like education, or either the two things I mentioned, like our product and or our content. We'll see, and I say we'll see because, frankly, the size of the business we are, it can't measure a moat on our business. It's too small.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think fast forward 5 years from now, I think we would probably have 10x the amount of traffic because there's more than that in the space.
That content becomes, well, SEO becomes your moat, and
So I think about, yeah, right. So I think about every day, every quarter when we in the day to day of our business decisions, I think about what are bets that we can take that can turn into moats, right? Um,
mm,
and I know we're not going to stop on the content and the product side. So we're thinking about what are other things we can do that can help us get there, right? Well, and because I think at one point in life in SaaS in the next 10 years, everyone's going to have all the same features. Everybody's going to have everything,
mm.
and therefore it's nothing, right? So what's different,
Well, your brand, nobody can copy your brand, and it's
right?
difficult to copy as a new entrant. If you
Right.
can't buy. I mean, it's possible to buy your way into brand. It takes a lot of money. Like Monday.com
Gong,
did that.
Monday, yeah, Monday, Gong, like Gong did too. Startups are good at buying brand. They're good at buying their way into things. Um, with the amount of money, I'd say with the amount of Series A, I think it's easy to buy brand.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can't,
Monday I think raised like over 100 mil, and I don't know how many of those went into just. It seemed like they bought the whole YouTube inventory at one point.
yeah. I, dude, my kid watches YouTube like kid videos, like
Yeah,
educational videos, and he sees Monday ads, right? It's like, yeah, we're definitely not buying it. Sorry, guys.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So I do think you can brute force your way into brand with with especially the rise of micro communities and TikTok and things that like it's like Pep, you're an influencer to me because I look at your Instagram stories every day. You therefore, even though you have a reach of one, I'm just making things up.
Mhm.
You, I I believe what you're doing, right? I'm just saying like if it's easier to feel like you're everywhere to a smaller subset of people. So I think those the technology shifts and usage shifts are helping people build brands faster. Um, does it catch up or does it do anything? I don't know, right? And also, like, even though you can build a brand through like TikTok and micro influence by surrounding that user, it works really well for B2C, B2B, SMB, but not so much enterprise, right? So
There you have it.
that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Sujan.
Thank you.